All right, we're down to the top 5. Brian, why don't you kick off your top 5? There's still lots that haven't been mentioned yet.
Yeah, well, no, not yet. I've got we've got a couple that we're going to get to. But this is one we just talked about, Moonchild off of Seven Son of Seven Son. Again, great track. I love every single song on that record. So happy when they did the recursor of it, and you know, I love people kind of, and again, I talk about the U.S. and the European different vibe on it, but I love that song. And the one thing that I know that Maiden fans complain about, and it doesn't bother me at all, is just the fact that he says Seven Son of a Seven Son like 4,000 times. But I like that. I think it's so catchy and cool. It's just, it's like hearing a guitar riff over and over again. It doesn't bother me at all. But I've got friends who go, I can't listen to that song. He just says it over and over again. I don't know. It sounds good to me. But yeah, I love that record. It's a great opening track. The same thing. I wanted to put it higher, but it's just, the top 5, man, it just gets really tough for me I knew the songs, but trying to slot them in was hard.
And once again, you get down to this, you know, the top 5, even the top 10. I mean, all these songs are brilliant. It's just a matter of opinion. It's fun just to debate them. But you're totally right on that. You could stick anyone into anyone. So
real quick, and my top 5 ended up being completely different than I thought it was going to be going in. I had it set up, and I went back and listened to everything, and I go, oh, no, I got to redo this now.
Moonchild, once again, is another Smith Dickinson opus, and I'll have a few more comments about it a little bit later on. And I'll go right to my number 5 because we discussed it a bit already. Be Quick or Be Dead made it into the top 5 for me. I think once again, not just because of the quality of the song, which is great. I think the surprise of it. You remember prior to that was No Prayer for the Dying, which was Holy Smoke and Tail Gunner. It was okay, but to me, you could really see that Adrian Smith was gone. It was not a great record. I mean, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter is probably the best song on it. But then, you know, Quick or Be Dead comes out and it's just like, oh my gosh, similar to Unholy. Like you hear a lot of these Paul songs in the 80s, which were cool, but then Gene just returns. And this to me was like the return of Iron Maiden, just like, get fucked, here we go. And then remember, like they're all wearing leather jackets in the video and Bruce's hair was even longer. He just grew it out. It just looked like they were there to kick some ass and be Iron Maiden again. So I really, really enjoyed that tune. And the video was cool as well.
Yeah, those 2 records for me, Fear of the Dark and the one
No Prayer for the Dying.
Are weird for me because I was such a big Adrian Smith fan, and I actually ended up by coincidence having dinner with him when he was doing his solo tour promo because my buddy was working at a radio station, so I had dinner with him, and what a really great guy he was, and very, very nice, and much more talkative after a couple of drinks, of course, but same here, I guess. But he was great, and we kind of talked about, you know, why he left, and he said he just wasn't into the direction musically they were going. He didn't feel that he could write what they were doing, and I really felt his lack on those 2 records. Look, there's some good songs. I was just looking at, I mean, some really good songs on the record. He said "Judas Be My Guy," which is great. "The Apparition" is really great. There's some really good songs on there, but overall, those 2 records just are not in my top Maiden thing. So I don't have that at all on my top 10.
Well, and the thing is too, like Adrian is a friend of mine. He was the first Maiden friend that I made. And he, like, those guys were so burned out. I mean, look what happened at the end of this tour cycle with Fear of the Dark. Bruce was gone too. They had toured so much, and I think they just got sick of everything and just needed to get away. And you could see that because when they went through the next phase of Maiden with the Blaze Bayley, I mean, I was looking, they played the fucking Masquerade in Atlanta. Yeah. We've played the Masquerade in Atlanta. Great room for Fozzy. Not a great room for Iron Maiden. So
I'm reading Adrian's book now, and while it's mostly about fishing, it was really interesting because I'm only about, I don't know, a third of the way through it, but he was talking about when they finished the Powerslave tour, how exhausted he was.
Yes.
Completely exhausted. And him and his then girlfriend, eventual wife, just went up to Canada and went fishing for like a month and a half in the middle of nowhere in Canada. All that. You kind of forget, you know, how, especially in the 80s, was just so tough on these guys, just constantly touring and touring and touring. And yeah, he also mentioned that when I talked to him as well about he just burned out.
Yeah, it's funny. Just as a side thing. So Frederick he's in Creator now. He was in what's the band that plays the super fast
Dragon Force?
Dragon Force. So we have an idea. We're going to put together a Maiden cover band called No Fear of the Dark. And all we do is songs from No Prayer of the Dying and Fear of the Dark. That's our gig.
I mean, that's the only way a lot of us will ever get to see some of those songs now. So
well, that's the thing, right? Yeah, exactly.
Please be my guy, please.
Yeah, yes, that's a good one. What's your number 5, Merlin?
So I'm flying in the face of the rules that we set down earlier on in the podcast, because as much as Brian, you made an excellent argument as to why the Ides of March should be considered the official first track. It is officially the first track on Killers. I can't argue it. However, when I think of Killers and I think of what really actually sets that album in motion and what kind of introduces the world to that era of Maiden, it's Wrathchild to me. And it's got arguably the most iconic bass line Steve Harris ever wrote. I just think I just want to give it a shout out, because it just feels weird to not have it as a kind of introductory thing for a Maiden album to me. So I've got Wrathchild as my number 5. And if I'm really not allowed it, then I'll just slap the sign of the cross on at number 10 and move everything up. So I'll just leave that there.
Yeah, that's the one where we had that conversation. It is kind of tough because, like I said, I'm just kind of going by the book of the way they have it. But look, those two songs are linked together, just like Satellite 15 and the Final Frontier are. But those are listed as one song. These, for some reason, are listed as two, which I'm kind of curious. I wonder why that is. If maybe it was just a record company thinking at the time, like, well, it's two separate tracks, or maybe it's a publishing thing. Who knows why it is? But
yeah, I'm wondering maybe if it's a publishing thing.
It's Jericho's podcast, so it's really up to him.
No, there's no rules here. It's a party, and I, like you said, both those songs are so linked and connected. And I'm looking right now at the track listing. There's 10 songs, including Ides of March. You know how things are. I mean, Brian, you would know more than anybody, especially back in those days. You had to provide 10 songs, right? So
it could very well be a contractual thing. Absolutely,
maybe it's a contractual thing. But to me, they're linked as much as like whenever I hear Eruption, if I don't hear You Really Got Me right after, I feel blue balled.